Hello, I'm Maciej Mikos and you're watching World Talks. Last night, Russian drones and missiles have killed at least 4 people, including 1 child, and injured some 40 more. As winter approaches, Russia is expected to intensify its terror campaign against the civilian energy infrastructure. And to talk about it and more, we're joined by Bohdan Nahaylo, editor-in-chief of Kyiv Post. Good evening.
Good evening.
So, some 500 drones and dozens of missiles, including the hypersonic Kinzhals, were launched against Ukrainian cities last night by the Kremlin. Now, President Zelensky has dubbed the attack, quote, deliberate targeted terror against ordinary cities. Now, Russia has been, in fact, targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure since the very beginning of the war. The question is, to what end?
Look, I don't think it's simply targeting energy infrastructure. This is, let's say, the excuse that the Russians use. It's a wave of terror. They are terrorizing the Ukrainian population. Yes, they are striking at some military targets. They're striking at a lot of infrastructure. In recent times, it's not so much energy as transport, rail transport, road transport, hubs and stations, railway stations, for example. It's terror. It's terror that's being rained down on Ukrainian cities. This morning, it was Kyiv was hit very hard. My correspondents, my reporters from Kyiv Post, couldn't get out of their shelters with their children. They said it's really bad this time, one of the worst attacks ever. But it's not just Ukraine. It's Odessa, it's Zaporizhia, it's Kharkiv, it's Sumy. And they are hitting all over the country. You see, many people in the West, I'm taking a few days off. I'm in Barcelona at the moment, but working remotely. Here, people think that the war is over. They're not even aware that these attacks are going on. And they ask me, as tonight, is there still a war? Is there fighting? Are they still attacking Ukraine? So the message that needs to be brought across to the public in Europe and beyond is that the war is not just dying out or faltering, it's intensifying as the Russians, I think, feel not only the pressure from sanctions and from the pressure on their economy and the fact that the front line is, shall we say, stymied and they are not breaking through in the way that they thought. So the huge costs of this war are having an impact. Remember, we're almost 4 years into this war. And also this seemingly change of tone from Trump.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Now, it's really hard to believe that some people have already forgotten about the war raging on in Ukraine. Now, talking about the US now, while Ukraine tries to repel Russian strikes, it also is about to obtain US-made long-range Tomahawks. Now, are you optimistic about this perspective, or is it maybe just a part of some, diplomatic bargain between Washington and Moscow?
Look, let's be realistic and let's be frank. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes bargaining, and we're not privy to all the details. So I wouldn't be surprised that there is a lot of hard bargaining going on, and Trump wants to come out and say, you see, I'm selling these things to NATO. NATO is paying us. Yes, we're supporting NATO, our allies in Ukraine, but Ukraine, through its NATO supporters, are actually paying us for this. So I think that's what he wants at the end of the day. A trickle of arms from the US is still coming. It hasn't been stopped, which is good news. But Europe is sort of in suspended animation because it doesn't know whether to take Trump seriously, that he's changing his tone and that he's so disappointed again with Putin that he's given him an actual 1 month in which he will see whether, he can still do some kind of business with him, or whether heavy sanctions need to be imposed. But in the meantime, people are dying, and Ukraine is not just suffering in terms of the terrorism. It's running out of ammunition. It's running out of anti-defense missiles. Its population is at a loss to know to what extent can it depend in the coming months on its friends and allies in the West.
But why has Ukraine specifically asked for Tomahawks? Can they really change the overall situation?
Look, Tomahawks, they're not a panacea. They would be very welcome. But Ukraine has made great strides in the last year to develop weapons that reach far into Russia and strike targets, economic targets, particularly in the energy sector, and are really damaging the Russian economy and psychologically their morale, which is very important. So, yes, Tomahawks are important, but I don't think they're the be-all and end-all. I think at the end of the day, what Ukraine really wants, I mean, let's be blunt, after the General Assembly meetings, after the NATO meetings that have just happened, etc., Ukraine wants NATO, including with the US, to help close the skies over Ukraine, if not over all of Ukraine, then at least Western Ukraine. We've got this great sort of, I won't call it panic, but perturbation, as there is anxiety. Where are all these unknown drones, these like the green men in Crimea and the green drones, the Leni dronchike, that have suddenly appeared over, Denmark, Norway, etc., not to mention the previous attacks, not attacks, but the intrusion into the airspace of Poland, Romania, Estonia, etc. So what Ukraine is saying, look, be logical and be consistent. Don't just apply a blanket, a cover to the border of Eastern Europe and NATO's flank, but extend it by 100, 300, 500 kilometers into Ukraine. So at least one or two or three of the major airports in Uzhhorod or in Lviv or elsewhere are opened up for traffic.
But is there enough political will in Europe to introduce such measures?
Obviously not. There are states that are very strongly for it. Poland is one of them, but others like Germany, unfortunately, have second doubts and thoughts about it and see it as escalating the situation. On the one hand, these very same states who are calling for resolute action from Trump, at the same time at home are saying, well, it's dangerous. Let's not, just as some states like Poland are saying, we will shoot down intruders, enemy airplanes, Russian airplanes, and others are saying, oh, no, this could escalate the conflict and it would make it even more dangerous, bring us closer to, say, a World War III scenario.
Yeah, but it seems that Russia is taking these threats of downing its aircraft quite seriously. Now, Foreign Minister Lavrov said, quote, "Any aggression against my country will be met with a decisive response," although no one is really talking about attacking Russian aircraft in Russia. Now, even Alexander Lukashenko has addressed the issue. Now, he stated that that neighbors don't do such things as attacking, another country's aircraft. Now, so, your comment.
This is totally ridiculous. Russia has invaded Ukraine, a sovereign state, a member of the United Nations, whose independence and territorial integrity was recognized by Russia, among others, and of course by its neighbors. And today, when it's occupying 20% or 19% of Ukraine's territory and has imposed a no-fly zone over Ukraine because of its terror, because of its use of drones and missiles, etc., it's daring to say that its planes and drones over NATO countries carrying out incursions into their airspace, that if their planes or drones are shot down, that these would be enemy acts. Hey, what are your weapons doing out there? Why are you on foreign territory? Not to mention just Ukraine as such. Surely Ukraine, as a sovereign state, has a right to say, neighbors, help us. We welcome your planes and your missiles and your defense systems on our territory. We're a sovereign state. Russia, stay out, get out of our country. I mean, that is what it amounts to. We don't understand in Kyiv why there are such reservations in countries that should know better.
Now, I'd like to talk about Ukraine's strongest ally, the US. Now, after Donald Trump expressed his dissatisfaction with Vladimir Putin, now also President J.D. Vance joins this narrative, and he said, "We've been actively pursuing peace from the very beginning of the administration, but the Russians have got to wake up and accept reality here. A lot of people are dying. They don't have a lot to show for it." Now, how to explain this this revolutionary change in the US administration narrative concerning the situation in Ukraine?
Well, first of all, it's a bunch of rubbish, because we know that it's the Americans have been procrastinating, and it's the Trump administration with Mr. POTUS himself saying, I'll give him another month. I can do it in 24 hours. I can do it in 48 hours. Well, I'll give him a week. I'll give him 2 weeks. I'll give him a month. I'll give him another month. I'll give him another month, etc., etc. We've got tired of hearing this, and it's not the Biden administration that needs to be blamed for the inactivity and the appeasement which the White House is showing, and it continues to show. I mean, even after Trump's speech at the United Nations, after his positive meeting with Zelensky, even after that, I need another month to decide whether to give Putin a chance or whether to apply heavy sanctions. I mean, this is rubbish. I mean, nobody takes this seriously. So maybe within the inner circle of the White House, they do, because they fear their boss and their jobs are at stake and their status. But nobody else in the world, whether it's in Ukraine or in China or in India or in Brazil, takes this seriously anymore. And in Russia, they take advantage of this, as we see again this morning from the heavy bombing and the, shall we say, exploitation of a war of attrition. Let's get as much territory and let's damage the Ukrainians as much as possible. And at the same time, let's put the West on its knees by showing that they are impotent, even when we attack them indirectly, implicitly, through their airspaces.
Bohdan Nahaylo, editor-in-chief of Kyiv Post, was our guest this evening. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
And thank you for watching, and stay with us for much more interviews and news here on TVP World.